Hey there, you're watching Bare Knuckle Binder. Welcome to the channel. Glad to have you along. My name's Eric. This truck right here, if you've never seen any of my videos, this truck is a 1952 International Harvester L122 Coleman 4x4 conversion. Now that's a mouthful, but this truck is special because as far as we know, this is the only one that's known to exist. I found this truck in a Northern California junkyard in December of 2020, and at that time, the truck had been basically stripped down and left for dead for several decades. It had no wheels, no motor, no transmission, no hood, but it did have both axles and the transfer case. So in 2022, I went back, I built it up basically from zero, and I drove it over 2,500 miles home to where I live in Central Texas. In the last video I made about this truck, I announced that this truck was going back to where I got it from for the 2024 International Harvester Sierra Fall Rally that's held in Grass Valley every year. The Sierra Fall Rally is one of the coolest International Harvester get-togethers in the nation. When I was bringing this truck back to life, it happened to be October of 2022, and I missed the Sierra Fall Rally by a few days, and I've regretted it ever since. So this will be like a victory lap bringing this truck back to actually be at the rally. I will be there with this truck. The Holden brothers from Bernie, Texas will be there with a 1969 Travelall that they're driving home from Oregon. So if you want to see these really awesome trucks, I've put the registration info in the video description. Now, before I get any further into this video, I have to say that in the last video I made about this truck, I made a mistake. I made a faux pas. It was when I was describing the 4x4 truck market of the early 1950s. And I completely omitted talking about Jeep or Willys. And I just have to say, it was a completely honest mistake. If you've watched more than one of my videos, you can probably tell that I just turn on the camera and start talking. None of this is scripted. And me leaving out Willys was just completely an honest mistake. I wasn't being ignorant of them. I wasn't insulting anybody who was in them. I wasn't trying to slight anybody or leave Willys out. The Willys folks definitely lit up the comments a bit, and I appreciate y'all that were friendly about it. The rest of y'all, I trust you might be able to move on from it someday. Now that we have the humiliating apology out of the way, in the last video, I also presented my to-do list. I talked about all the prep I have to do to get this thing to go cross-country, because not only is this truck driving back from California again to Texas, it's also driving to California, because I'm not gonna haul it out there. I love to drive these trucks. I mean, an excuse to drive this truck cross-country twice? Perfect. So this truck is gonna be driving over 5,000 miles this October, so I've gotta get it ready. Now, reality is setting in too, because this past weekend, I spent it on the road traveling with a band. I got back really late Monday night, really was 4 a.m. Tuesday. I spent Tuesday and half of Wednesday under the weather. I spent the rest of Wednesday cleaning the garage, which is nice because it's probably the cleanest it's been in months. And now, you know, I've got to get this video done. So what I've chosen to do for this video is to basically just knock out all the small stuff on the list. I don't have time to tear apart a Coleman axle. It's really involved. I need at least a week to do that if I'm filming it. And then re-arching springs, that's not rocket surgery, but it's very time consuming. So I've got these small things on the list, you know, some hood stuff, the spotlight, you know, little stuff like that that I mentioned in the last video. I'm gonna knock those out, and I'll also update you on the stuff I've got ready to go into it. So let's get after it. A few things that just pop out to me now is that spotlight, the Coleman emblem on the other side. I've also got these hood bumpers and the hood latches. I want to adjust the hood on it. That might be as much as I can get done before I have to start editing this thing, but we'll see. I'm sure there's more I can do. New pile of tires here. Pay no attention to that Farmall front end. That's coming soon. Yeah, the pile of tires. So I got tires to put on it. I have a tire cage for mounting tires, and it lives down at the Holden brothers shop now. So I've got to go down there next week and mount these up on the rims. So it'd be a pretty good chance to go down there and see the boys and talk about the trip a little bit. All kinds of goodies in the shop right now. Got the C1 front end there. Got a 233 green diamond there. A 240 silver diamond there. And there's Brutus's old block under there with one piston still stuck in it. That 240 is going to be an awesome project. Kind of related to everything I'm doing right now, but I just don't have time to get into it now. Random T9. This box here has parts out of Brutus's motor. This is all Farmall stuff, actually. That's a distillate head off an H. That's live hydraulics out of a Super H or 300. That's more parts from that H motor. And this is an M&W 9-speed for an H. So it's pretty obvious a Farmall H is going to be on the channel pretty soon. No, that's what I'm looking for. Hey. All right, so these are the hood bumpers. And they go in these little holes right here. These are just welded through. Nice. So I'm just gonna start putting these in here. There's a trick to this. You might feel a temptation to grease these up with like dish soap. That's usually a really good lubricant for rubber. You don't want to use oil on them because oil will actually eat the rubber. But on these, you want to keep them dry. And the reason being is that you're gonna try to push this in and this cone will actually hit that hole and spread out and not go in. So what you have to do is just get this tip of it through there and you grab that with the pliers. Sometimes you can do it with your fingers, but it'll wear your hands out pretty quick. Grab this end with the pliers and you wiggle it back and forth and this thing will just kind of walk its way in there. It'll look like that when you're done, like that. Now the reason I say not to use the dish soap on this is because if you do it, it will get so slick the pliers will slip off of it and it really doesn't help it walk in there. You lose traction on it. So it's really tough to film this, but I'll try. Man, I had it all set up to record this other one down here, but apparently I forgot to press record, so it went in beautifully. So now that I'm recording, this one will definitely make me look like a fool. Just grab that tip and you just kind of pivot it in. Now pushing on it actually will work against yourself. Just work it side to side, then it pops right in. Maybe I can get this guy from the other side. Now this one might not work, but I'm trying to get it to show you from the inside. See, I put it in right here. Grab it with the pliers. Work it back and forth. Oh, never had that happen before. I like to pull back on the button on the outside so I can see my progress. And if you see a part that's going in more, pull on that side, because once you get in, there it is, all done. Once you get one lip, once you get one of these lips in, these little guys to go in past the rim, the rest of it will just pop in pretty easy. So that's how you do these. I'm gonna put the rest in and then we'll get back to the hood. This is pretty cool. Well, I put all the rubber bumpers in and now the hood latches pretty much perfectly straight. And yeah, so I don't really need to adjust it. So that's one video down. But there is this gap here and it's supposed to be closed. And part of it is, like I mentioned before, there's this pushed in part of the grill, so the grill's not perfectly straight. But to put the motor into this truck in the junkyard, instead of taking off the whole front clip, I took off the grill. and you can see how it's fallen down a little bit. So I think some of that can be taken up by adjusting the grill up. Some of it looks like the hood might be a little wonkalitis, but yeah, I think that's something I'm gonna have to figure out at a later date. I'm not real positive that I'm gonna work on adjusting the grill up at this point. I got some bigger fish to fry than getting the body lines perfect on this right now. All right, so got this other Coleman badge. Now, this Coleman badge I eyeballed and put on here, which worked for the first one. The second one's got a match, right? So I measured this, and from the bottom of this to the curve of the hood, it's about 1 1/8 inches. And then from the tip to the edge of the hood there is 3.5 inches. So, how do I make a template? Printer paper. And since this is gonna be the far edge, see, going this way, we don't quite have 3.5. So we can tilt it this way. Oh, we get that 3.5. So poke holes in this. So I poke the pins of the emblem through here. That's the start of our template. And then I traced where the bottom of the emblem is, and then where the end of the C is here. So basically I have to measure down 1 1/8 inches, run that along as a parallel line, and that'll mark where it goes on the bottom of the hood there. And then from here, I'll measure out 3.5 inches, and that's where it will meet with the hood on the other side. Well, I went through and measured this over again just to be safe, and I'm glad I did because it's actually 1 inch. So this is still 3.5. So that's 3.5. So let's go around the other side and mark this. So this part is actually pretty easy. Just butt this end up there, match her up with the curve of the hood, double check everything, triple check everything, double check, triple check, mark it. Right in the center of these guys. All right, time to drill it. Just make sure that looks right. Man, that looks right to me. Doesn't look too bad. Now these emblems they kind of hold themselves in by tension at this point. But those are pretty rare emblems, so got to put the keepers on them, and they just slide on the stud. The other side has just been holding itself in by tension this whole time, so I'm gonna get these both clipped in there. Ooh, nice and tight on there with the snaps. This one, kind of look crooked. No. If I do this, you can't even tell. Yeah, it looks fine. Looks good. With the spotlight, I've replaced the bulb in this thing, and I still didn't get it working. So let me get a hot wire going. Just clip it on the back of the light switch, which is always hot. All right, got it clipped on the back of the light switch and hot wire. So, clipper on there. Now I'm guessing it's a bad ground or it's a bad switch. neither of those are turning on, so I'm thinking now I get a jumper wire and try to ground it. Maybe it's not grounded. Found these random Mickey Mouse looking jumper wires in my toolbox, so let's give them a try. Take one of these guys and ground it onto something. How about that? Put a test light on it and see if it's actually passing current. All right, well, I think it's something to switch then. So we gotta take this apart. We can start by taking the switch off the back of it. This thing goes in and solders into the switch, those two little flathead screws. It looks fine. Let me try clipping this switch directly to no spark. Nothing. Well, the switch is good. I mean, it looks good. See that? But the contact is shiny. The contact is shiny. It's nice and it's got some weird grease that apparently just seems like that's probably par for the course with a roof mount spotlight. You know, gravity and whatnot. But I think the best plan of action now is just to pull this handle off and see what's going on in there. And then, I mean, I just connected that bulb. I know the bulb is brand new. I know that I connected it correctly. So I'm gonna start by pulling this handle off and see if I can find anything amiss inside here. All right. Now, see if we can hit that contact there and see if it does something. Hey, that does something. Okay. So it's got to be in here, and it's quite possible that this thing is either dirty or just not pushed up far enough. Use some real scientific cleaning methods here. I saw a spark, so that's a good sign. Hey, mommy. Okay. Okay, so we have contact. Now I'm just kind of talking out loud. So I've got to run this in here. Get her. It's got to have a little bit of a loose lead so it can turn and swivel, pivot, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's interesting to mention at this point that I'd really love to have a headliner on this thing for the trip. But I do have the door panels on, and it's interesting to note that whenever the weather gets humid, rainy, whatever, these things ripple up. And then they flatten back out when it dries up. But they always do this rippling, and I hate it. So for the headliners, we'll do that more, and it's actually more of a concern with them because then they start dipping down and gravity just takes its toll on them, and then they go to crap pretty quick. But I have seen or heard of people using like PVC plastic sheathing material or something and making headliners or door panels out of them, but I've never done that. but I'd be interested in looking into it. If anybody watching this has experience with that, I'd love to know more about it. But yeah, in any case, yeah, just time to wire this in, put the switch back on, and Bob's your uncle. Oh, another thing. If anybody watching has another visor for an LRS series truck, Jess said she'd really like a sun visor for her side of the cab for the trip. So let me know if you have one that you'd like to sell, because I would like to buy it from you with money. All right, so there's that. Man, this sure would look cool just coming out of a really clean headliner, just a straight shaft. All right, so I'm going to get this guy bolted onto there, and then run this wire in, get it all connected. So I was editing this video and I realized I never even showed the spotlight working. Like, there's zero gratification to that, so look at that. Can't wait to use this thing out in the trails in the middle of the night in Nevada. It's gonna be sick. All right, as long as we're here, let's get after this glove box. Looks like I should have painted it, huh? Got Claudette's namesake in there. In fact, the reason I named this truck Claudette, because I was trying to do a play on words with Coleman, and Colbert was the closest I got. Got a bumper here, need to add a bumper here. Let's clean it out. Found a bumper, so that can go there. This is the guy causing a lot of problems. You can see where it's wearing there, and then wearing there. And then also, it's missing screws, one screw each on these hinges. So let me see about writing this real quick. All right. So this one's caught up on something. I gotta work my way up there. I might have to re-drill that hole a little bit. This one I managed to fix just by changing it to a flat instead of a point. And then now they both have the bumpers on them. I bent that up a little bit. She's nice and tight. So I'm gonna go through and figure that out, get it tighter. It needs a washer on it as well. But for the most part, this thing is really coming around. I had to bend these out a little bit. The steel is actually a little thicker than the cardboard. The cardboard compresses a little bit. And by cardboard, I mean the stock glove boxes are made out of cardboard. The replacements are made out of cardboard. I made this one out of steel just because I wanted it to last longer, because those cardboard ones get wet and then they warp up and rot out and all that. Yeah, it's a lot more solid. It doesn't seem like it's gonna rattle. I've got to figure out this thing. It's just off a little bit. And I've got to bend this up a little bit to get the glove box is still a little proud of it. It's not lining up quite right. So I'm gonna fiddle with it more, but for the most part, I'm gonna call this fixed for the rattle that was on my list. It's such a pain in the butt to film any of this, so I'm just gonna do it all off camera because woof. But got some rusty old point files in here. They work better when they're rusty, more abrasive. Oh, and this turn signal's on the list. It's turn signal locator. Obviously, right works, left doesn't work. This guy right here he came out of that union. So if you kind of stick it in there, it starts working again. Damn it. In my defense, I wired the turn signals on this truck in the dark. So that's not my proudest electrical work to date. So I'm gonna replace that union, cover it in heat shrink, look a little bit better, and we'll call it a day. Nice. So this is crazy. I had to take a break and go help my buddy move something, but there's one random squeak on this truck now. Other than that, it's totally quiet. Normally, driving an International down the highway, it's like a mouse choir, but I guess the hood was 99% of it. Wild. All right, so I pretty much have to end this video now so I can get it edited and up on the interwebs. So next video, I've got the Miko brake lock cable I need to install. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna do the Coleman axle, spring re-arching, or the transmission build. I have the T9 4x4 transmission that I mentioned in the first video in pieces, and it has been for months. So I need to get that thing built up if it's gonna make the trip. I also have the winch that I could take apart and rebuild. And I got the tires to mount. I think actually the tires will be in the next video because I've got to go down to the Holdens next week and talk to them about the trip. Probably shoot a little footage then and get those tires mounted. And then there's also a place in San Antonio. I don't know if I'm gonna have time or the resources to get there before this trip, but it'd be really nice to get these tires shaved. And if you don't know what that is, shaving tires is that mass production tires a lot of times aren't completely round. So with the tires mounted on the rims and inflated, they'll spin the tires and get them perfectly round. They'll shave them just a little bit on the outside. So it actually makes your tires last longer. And since those tires are like $300 a pop, that would be nice. So there's a tire shop nearby here in Wimberley, Texas, Hill Country Tire, that will balance split ring wheels. Most other places are scared to due to misinformation claiming that they're split rim, but they're split ring. We'll get into that in the next video, but I don't know if Hill Country Tire can balance open center rims, which is what the Coleman axle takes. If you want to learn more about these wheels and the rims and everything that are on the truck right now, I made a really good video about it where I figured out that they're basically the same wheel. One's open centered and the other one has a wheel disc in the middle, and if you drill the rivets out of the wheel disc and push it out, you can put that wheel right on there, right on the Coleman axle. Pretty wild. Anyway, I gotta wrap this video up, get it up online. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I've appeased the Willis people. Again, no slight intended. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you dig this sort of thing. That really helps me out. And I will see you in the next video.